What it do, crew? Welcome back to the channel. So my name is Ver, and if you're new to the channel, I talk about personal finance and investing, and sometimes I do reaction videos, but I came across a video today that CNBC Make It just put out, and I've worked with CNBC Make It before, both me and my fiance when we were on Millennial Mortgage or their segment of Millennial Money, but I saw this one they released today titled, Refusing to Pay $80K in Student Loan Debt. And I know student loan debt or student loans have been a hot topic recently. I've done a few videos, like a good handful of videos on student loans. And when I saw this video, I wanted to react to it because, hey, it pertains to me and let's see what other people think. But then it was until later in the afternoon that one of my good friends, Todd Baldwin, did a reaction video. I'm going to do a reaction titled Millennial Reacts to Millionaire Reacts Refusing to Pay $80K in Student Loan Debt. So let's get into the video after you destroy the like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already done so. But anyways, let's get into this video.
Todd, and welcome back to my show. Well, today I have sort of a slightly different video from you guys because I usually do not react to CNBC. I typically leave reaction videos to another millennial millionaire who is just owning the space on that, and props to him. But every once in a while, a video comes out that is incredibly controversial because it's politically charged, and I know that this other guy will not be reacting to it. But whether it's because I have no filter or maybe I'm just a plain idiot, I really don't care what other people think, and I make content even if it's controversial and it will get a lot of dislikes. So today, I'm reacting to CNBC Make It's latest video about refusing to pay off student loans. If that sounds good, let's hop into it.
Funny thing is, it is controversial, but I think there's certain aspects of it that make sense and some of them that don't.
I went to UMass Amherst and I studied journalism and social thought and political economy. I dropped journalism and I don't actually have my degree yet. I'm one class short.
Oh, that is tough. How do you, I couldn't imagine going to school, going through the whole process of 4 years, 5 sometimes, and just not getting anything out of it. Because what happens is when you have student loans, private, federally backed, you owe those loans back as soon as you leave school. There are other ones where they start to accrue interest, but you don't actually have to make payments until after you leave school. So technically, she left school, she didn't finish her degree, and now she owns money, but she doesn't have a job that's utilizing, or maybe she does, I don't know. But it's kind of like you go through school and you don't have anything to show for it. That's not cool.
You know, when you're 17 and you think of $20,000, if you didn't grow up in money, you don't even know what that means. How big is that? I don't know. I can't even think about it.
You see, there's one problem I see there is when you're growing up, you have to have conversations about money. So you got to normalize that kind of thing. If you don't, these sorts of things will happen and you kind of just get let loose when you don't have that guidance anymore.
Maxed out on her loan options and unable to pay tuition, Young dropped out of college around 10 years ago. Soon after, she defaulted on a $19,000 private loan that was only recently discharged off her credit. Her father was forced to repay a portion of the loans that he co-signed for, and she still has about $67,000 in loans outstanding.
Oh my goodness. I see Todd's going to say something about this, but with a parent being like a guarantor on a loan, it makes sense in some situations because you can only get more loan money if you have a guarantor on it. But then that gets into this whole thing where you as a student who has no job history, no credit history, you need someone else to guarantee that loan. Like if your parent is in the position to afford that loan to help pay that back once you finish school, then sure. But then I've seen situations where they sign on to the loan because they don't know any better. They don't think about the options. They don't read the fine print. And for me personally, I got approved for Parent Plus loans, something like this. And my mom didn't sign on to them just because the responsibility should not be onto her. This was a personal thing between me and my mom. But the thing is, sometimes when you get that signed on, you're now on the hook, especially if you don't finish school. It can get into these types of situations. So that's the clarification that I think is being said here. Let's see what Todd says.
Right off the bat, this is something that I don't like. So this individual is refusing to pay back her student loans that she signed on for, but her poor father who co-signed on the loan, he is still forced to pay his portion. I mean, if you don't want to pay your own thing, then I don't think that's right, but at least it only affects you and it only affects your credit. But it sounds like her father was roped into this too, which is not really a good thing.
You should get that information, but you should also really focus on the fine print as well as there's this whole breakdown of educating yourself on the types of loan products that you'll be getting. Don't skip on those things because I feel like if anyone were to go in there with an educated perspective, just being aware of what that product means, you would have to weigh out the options versus just sign the piece of paper.
Score is so bad that at 30 years old, I can't get a $3,000 loan for a used car at anything less than a 13% interest rate. That is the best option that I have.
Okay, the reason why you can't get a $3,000 loan for a car is because you refuse to pay off your debt. So, like, you've already established, I mean, this video is titled Refusing to Pay Off Student Loans. You've already established you're the type of person who will take on debt, make the choice to take on debt, and then refuse to pay it. So, of course, you're not going to get, nobody's going to lend you money.
Whenever a lender lends you money or lends out money, they need a return on investment. That is why there are interest rates on loans, as well as any fees that go along with establishing that loan. So if you have really bad credit or a history of not paying any debt back to lenders, to potential lenders, they're like, whoa, 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 it's not a good investment to invest in this person. So it doesn't make sense to. So I agree with Todd on this 100%.
Getting housing is extremely difficult because any rental company, they require a credit check. And
you know how you build your credit, at least in this situation? Like, you can choose not to pay your student loans, but you can also look into programs where you can legally defer paying on loans. That will help that burden. You can also open up a credit card that's not like one of those that need like an extensive credit history, but maybe a secured credit card. I'm pretty sure she'd be able to open up a secured credit card, put like $100 to $200 on that secured credit card, similar to a gift card, and then just use that to pay for things like her Netflix subscription, chewing gum, whatever it may be, and then just pay off that. That way you establish some sort of line of credit.
I agree that the student loan crisis is huge and it's terrible, and we need something different. In fact, we need to stop securing and guaranteeing these student loans. But also, there's an element of personal responsibility that nobody wants to talk about. Every decision that I make, I own it. And if I make a decision that happens to be a bad one, I don't think it's somebody else's job to pay for it.
I agree with that 100% with what Todd just said, because education, I believe everyone should have the right or just the opportunity for a better education. I believe everyone should be able to do that. At the end of the day, the institutions that charge the tuition to get that money got their money. So I agree that there needs to be a whole revamp to the whole education and loan borrowing system, to where it's not just like money that just gets given out just like candy, and then these institutions get their money, because institutions, whether it's public or private institutions, they get their money anyways because of this fact.
And after 20 or 25 years, the remaining debt will be forgiven. Now that is taxable under current law. So you'll substitute a tax debt for student loan.
Actually, this guy said that any loans forgiven at a later date, like 20 to 25 years later, is taxable under current law. I'm curious when this was filmed, because pretty recently, President Biden and the administration actually waived any taxable forgiveness from now until 2025 of December 2025. So if in this current runway of 4 years that there is any student debt forgiven, which there already has been, if you're not curious, check out my other videos on it, then that will be tax-free.
We don't want people to commit financial suicide.
This is insane. So he's saying he doesn't want people to commit financial suicide, and yet he plans to actually live in poverty for the next 25 years just so he doesn't have to pay his $40,000 of student loans.
I'm going to say you commit financial suicide as soon as you sign on the dotted line taking out that much student loans. This is where it gets into why certain loan forgiveness programs or moves in legislation should be very targeted, because even though not all degrees and sources of employment are the same, the price of a degree is the same, depending on what school you go to.
I mean, think about that. Like, let's just say for a second, and I don't know what he studied, but let's assume for a minute here that if he used his degree, he could make $60,000 instead of $19,000, which is what he has to make in order to not pay his loans back. So that $40,000 difference in income, if he had to do that for 10 years, that would be $400,000. If he had to do that for 20 years, that would be $800,000. But he has to do that for 25 years, meaning that he's going to be missing out on about $1 million in income just so he doesn't have to pay $40,000 of student loans.
That's ridiculous. It's like That's $40,000 of student loan debt. Obviously, that amount is not anywhere comparable to someone who has $300,000 in student loan debt or even more. But if you're anywhere below, say, $60,000 in student loan debt, and you can have a job that is $60,000 or more, I think you should be able to potentially pay that off in the regular time span of 10 years, which is, the regular amount of time to pay off student loans.
They can garnish your wages up to 15% administratively without a court order. They can intercept your federal and state income tax refunds. They can intercept lottery winnings. They can also garnish up to 15% of your Social Security retirement and disability benefit payments. You won't be able to get an FHA or VA mortgage. They can prevent renewal of a professional license, like a doctor or
It's not even worth it, dude. It honestly isn't worth it. So, like, this guy's laying out all the potential things that can happen if you don't pay back your student loans. It's like, put that in big bold letters or big bold print whenever someone's about to agree or disagree to take out a loan. Like, do you really want to deal with all that trouble just to not pay back your student loans? I'm going to take the average of $30,000, $35,000 in student loan debt. It honestly is not worth it. Like, come on. Just don't do it.
And I don't know why this gentleman is acting surprised that you couldn't get approved for a mortgage. I mean, like, again, the banks are going to look at this and be like, hey, if you signed up to take on $40,000 of student loan debt and you can't even pay that back and you're choosing to live in poverty, how on earth are you going to pay back a $200,000 mortgage loan? Like there's just no way that's going to happen. So I'm not surprised there at all.
The thing is, I think that's a blanketed statement, Todd, because there are certain scenarios where a borrower should not have to or should have assistance in paying back their student loans. One of them was approved last month, where Education Secretary actually canceled about $1.3 billion of student loan debt for borrowers with disabilities. So here's the thing. If you're a veteran and you've gone and done your service, you come out, you want to go back to school, but then for some reason, you come back disabled, you took out student loan debt, and then now you can't work due to, whatever medical condition that it may be, mental, physical, whatever it may be, that doesn't give you the ability to work, that could potentially result in death. The amount of debt that borrower has should be either forgiven or assisted to pay off. So it's kind of like if you were to become fully disabled and you receive Social Security benefits, right? It's something that we as the American people already pay into. That's an example. Like, it shouldn't be the responsibility of that person because it could have been a scenario that they didn't account for, and you can never account for certain things. Very case by case basis. Obviously, that's not the whole, but that's where it gets into, like, there are many legislations, senators, and representatives that want to push for the 50K forgiveness for all borrowers. I don't think that should be the case. I think it should be much more calculated and targeted based on a function of earnings potential, and the amount of debt that someone has.
Okay, so there was a lot in that video, and I mean, I know that me making this video is going to get me a ton of dislikes and tell me that I'm heartless and all these.
Though the funny thing is, Todd, you only have one dislike, so good on you for talking about this because I believe this stuff should be talked about. Just to make this fun, I'm going to give you a dislike. I'm just playing, dog. But I like the commentary. Let's see what else you got to say.
Especially because if student loans are actually forgiven, that'll be forgiven by the taxpayers. So imagine you have some person that goes out and takes, $80,000 of debt from some fancy pants school or whatever, decides to live in poverty for 25 years, have it be forgiven by the taxpayers, and it just makes no sense to me.
The same money that is quote unquote forgiven that Todd is talking about, if there are federally backed student loans, it's already money that has been allocated from the taxpayers for someone else to go to school. So a little bit of statistics for you. There's only 20% of Americans that actually take out student loans to go to school. So another 80% that don't take out student loans, don't go to school, whatever you may have it, but the taxes of 100% of Americans, plus not even US citizens, because that's a totally different thing, actually go to funding certain programs like the Pell Grants, federally backed student loans, whether it's unsubsidized loans or subsidized loans. That's money that is actually given out to people to go to school that is from taxpayer money. So you get a cost to go to college, and there is really no ceiling. Like the limit does not exist. And people can get approved for these loans, and the institutions get their money, and then they go about their day and they keep doing this until it's just an exponential growth.
But if you guys disagree, I open a discussion. I open a healthy, civilized discussion in the comments section.
No, screw that, Todd. Like, come on, man. Screw the civilized comments. Screw the conversation. Let's put on our boxing gloves, because I know you box.
I've been cooped up too long, and I want to fight someone. I'm just playing. Like, I don't want to get beat up by Todd because he's a big dude. But anyways, if you have any comments regarding student loan debt, if you have student loans, if you want to talk about it, if you want to have some discussions, check out my other videos on it, because there are a lot of things going on with student loans, even though there's other stuff going on in the world. Let me know down in the comments below what you think. Check out Todd's video, check out Todd's channel, all that good stuff. Obliterate the like button, the subscribe button, and the notification bell so you know the next time I post a video on my channel. I hope Todd sees this. If he does, I hope he likes the video, and I hope he wants to fight. Just kidding, don't fight me. But anyways, if you took anything from this video, if you learned something, take that and get to work.
Fight.